It's the Ross Tucker Football Podcast.
Oh, yeah, it is. But it's not just any Ross Tucker Football Podcast, because I would never do that to you guys. It is a Wisdom Wednesday that we are recording Tuesday late afternoon because my guest, Dave Dameshek, is the man, and he's on the West Coast. Been way, way too long since I had Shek on the show. So doing this on Tuesday afternoon, we will have a Spread the Word winner, a sponsor confirmation email winner, and a YouTube shout out winner on the next episode. So follow me on TikTok. I'm a TikTok star now since people dislike my Chipotle order so much. At Ross Tucker NFL. We'll get another winner from TikTok this week. Sponsor confirmation email. You know what to do there. So many good sponsors today. Lumen Skin, lovely on my skin. LinkedIn, of course. You guys know about UFOS, all the great sponsors. And then the YouTube shout out, incredibly easy. Just hit the thumbs up at youtube.com/Ross Tucker NFL. Make any comment. You're pretty much guaranteed to get a cameo style video from your boy that you can give someone as a gift or just think it's funny or whatever. I don't really care. I do care about Dave Dameshek and The Big Show.
The Big Show.
All right, I have my buddy Dave Dameshek, who you need to follow, by the way, at Dameshek on Twitter. He's hilarious. He's always been hilarious. I love his Twitter profile picture. At Dameshek is where you follow him on Twitter. He's got the -3 podcast, the Extra Points podcast, which you can and should follow all of them. Two very important things, Shek, to talk about. Number one, we haven't officially kibitzed, to use your word, on the Steelers drafting Kenny Pickett from Pitt. And then, we haven't talked either about the NFL allowing a second helmet this year for the first time in a long time, which opens up a lot of possibilities. I want to start, though, with Kenny Pickett. And I'm going to give you a blank canvas. I follow you on Twitter, so I think I kind of know where you're going to go here. But your thoughts on the Pittsburgh Steelers drafting, they could have had any quarterback they wanted. They drafted Kenny Pickett from the Pitt Panthers in the first round.
First of all, hello, Ross. What a pleasure to see you once again. It has indeed been too long. So long, in fact, that I didn't even know about your burgeoning stardom on TikTok. Good for you, man.
It's been like 2 weeks. And the only thing that's really clicked with people is my Chipotle order, and people are just eviscerating me. They just
wait. You like food? You like to talk about food on social media? I can't imagine. I can't believe that's.
I videoed me making what I believe is the perfect burrito bowl order, and people did not like anything. They didn't like when I asked for as much meat as her boss would allow. They didn't like that I didn't have queso or any type of salsa on it. It got very testy.
I don't know that you need queso on there, but sure, if you're going to Chipotle, you better get some one of the sauces. I'm not going to tell you which one you have to get, but
you know what I learned? I learned? I used to always just get one of the sauces, either pico or the green sauce, and then I discovered how good and frankly lubricated and juicy the corn is. The corn is lubricated and juicy and provides enough liquidity for my purposes.
It's interesting. I'll explore what you're saying here. I trust you. You're a strong voice in the food game, and so I certainly am not going to reject it out of hand to create some heat here on your show today. I will say though that Chipotle, generally speaking, as opposed to some of the other high-end Mexican food joints that all of America gets to sample, not just in Southern California. Chipotle's green is the star. Now, there are other places where the brown salsa is a little bit better, but the green salsa is where it's at Chipotle. All right, Kenny Pickett. Call me a cheese ball, call me saccharin or whatever. I love it. And, it for me is this simple. The kid is from Pitt. He dragged that team almost by himself. I mean, Jordan Addison and a bunch of other high-end players had something to do with it, but he was the face of the Pitt Panthers returning to relevance in college football. And he's a Heisman candidate, and his reward is that he gets to walk across the hallway and put on the black and gold instead of the blue and gold. And I think, listen, if you're from any other football town, I'm sure it gets a big shoulder shrug, rightly. But if you're a Pittsburgh Steelers fan, this is a great story. I mean, the idea that are you such a curmudgeon, so incapable of seeing the potential great end of the story? I think you have to roll the dice, even if you feel like he's a little bit of a reach, that the ceiling is lower on him than, say, Malik Willis or otherwise, or they should have waited a year, which is a canard that people have bought for years now, that like, oh, next year's, I mean, the arithmetic to get to next year and to lose the proper amount of games so that you're in a position to get a guy that probably is ranked in a spot that he's not going to be ranked in last year. I'm talking about you, Spencer Rattler. A year ago, everybody, the prize of the 2022 QB class is going to be Spencer Rattler. You have to transfer out. So things change. So that idea of waiting till next year, whatever, is jive. In the meantime, this kid, a lot of yinzers, dude. A lot of like, dude, we should have taken Danny Marino when we had a chance to do that. That's
dude, you know what's so funny? I know a lot of people from Pittsburgh. You sounded exactly like them. That is uncanny. And obviously, it's like you're from there.
That's exactly right, dude. You know who we got at QB this year? Keaton Slovis. You seen this kid, dude? He was out at Southern Cal, but he had to leave there, so now he's on Pitt. He come over from Kenny Pickett. It got Keaton. What's his name? Keedani Slovis. I hear the dude's good, but
I love the thing you keep tweeting about. I'm bummed out. That is amazing.
I'm bummed out. Yeah, the Penguins lost. My plan was for to never have to tweet that again and just see my teams win in perpetuity. As it turns out, I'm going to have to tweet that quite a bit, and a lot of people are forecasting come autumn 2022, I'll be tweeting that clip of the ultimate Yinzer out saying like, I'm bummed out.
So here's my thing though. Okay,
but you see the upside, and I think it's worth the roll of the dice. Sincerely.
Yeah, so by the way, a Yinzer, if you don't know, is someone from Pittsburgh, which I don't really know. Why are they called a Yinzer? I know that they're from Pittsburgh. I never really knew why.
Because classically, people don't say Pittsburgh, do you guys want to do that? They say, Yins want to go over there. Yins want to go down, and we could go downtown and watch the Steeler game. Yeah, Roethlisberger, you seen him. Them Brownies is chasing him around. He shove him down, and he throw the ball touchdown, dude. He wung it. That dude, he just wung it to the end zone, touchdown. The Brownies is like, what's we supposed to even do with that?
All right, so here's the question.
Yeah.
All right. So I know a bunch of Steelers fans living in central Pennsylvania. But, for example, the one I know, he is a Penn State grad. He's not a Pitt guy. He's from Johnstown, okay? From Johnstown, okay? His fear, he believes that the Rooneys are very, very loyal, perhaps to a fault. His logic is he's not a Pitt guy, so that story doesn't do much for him. And Kenny Pickett is maybe Andy Dalton, which in his mind makes him the fourth best quarterback in the division behind Lamar Jackson and Watson and Joe Burrow. But he's not going to be bad. So, and the Rooneys are loyal, especially with a local kid. So he's worried that the Steelers are signing up for several years of 7 to 10 wins and not really having a chance to win the Super Bowl, which is all he really wants. Your retort.
First of all, I have become, as the years progress for me, and I'm really keen on pushing this, is the idea of if you're going to be a sports fan, you gotta convince your brain to be a journey over destination person. If your goal is, if you're going to be destroyed, if you're going to be bummed out at the end of every year because your team didn't win the championship, well, the odds are you're going to be bummed out a lot. Even if you're a Patrick Mahomes and Kansas City Chiefs fan. I just had on -3 this very day, or on Tuesday, I should say, our mutual pal, Jeff Schwartz. And yes, we did talk about baby back ribs as well as the entire AFC West and how the Bungles might be a little overrated just because they made one run. You are not guaranteed playoff relevance because you have a great quarterback. It gets you real close to being that. But, you know, there are these tropes that have been forged, and we buy them year after year, even though there's evidence that disproves them. And the idea of like, well, once you commit to a quarterback, especially in the first round, well, now you're stuck for the next 5 years. And I will refer you to Cliff Kingsbury. May not be long for pro football. He better put out a winner this year, or he may be shown the door by New Year's Eve. But in the meantime, his legacy is that he proved something that just was well, you could never do that. You can't draft a quarterback one, you can draft another one. Yeah, as it turns out, you can, and the whole enterprise isn't going to collapse as a result of that. They take Josh Rosen with the 10th overall pick. Then they hire Cliff Kingsbury, and Cliff Kingsbury says, I want to draft Kyler Murray first overall. The world didn't fall apart. The Cardinals didn't require another half decade to get back on track or everything. They've been pretty good since they got Kyler Murray. So if Kenny Pickett, let's say, for all the cynics out there who are sure that he's going to bust or his hands aren't big enough or whatever, then in a year or 2 or 3, then you draft another guy if the right guy presents himself to your team, either in free agency or otherwise. Here's the great news also for the cynics out there. You and I have talked about this many times at this point, but the notion of QB saturation. 2011, you saw mixed in with the top dozen players drafted that year, some future Hall of Famers among them. Von Miller's in that group. Tyron Smith is in that group. J.J. Watt. And so Pat Pete, I believe, is in that class 2011. Sprinkled in with those names in the top 10 are Christian Ponder and Jake Locker. Back in 2011, if you wanted a quarterback, you had to reach to get one, and it was a real roll of the dice. That's not to say that every guy's going to work out, witness Josh Rosen. But the pipeline in college is so rich now, just a decade later, that there are always going to be this thing like, I don't know, there's a weak QB class. Every QB class has 1 to 6 guys legitimately that have a good chance of working out. So it's much easier than what the cynics present to you. What are you going to do to get out from under? There's another guy right behind him. If this guy doesn't work out, you can go get another one. Think about who's the worst. Like QB saturation is that there are more viable QBs for the 32 teams than there are slots for them. Look who's out on the road as we speak right now. I mean, who's out there to be had? Baker Mayfield, Jimmy Garoppolo last seen in the NFC title game. Cam Newton, if you want to roll the dice on that, given where he is in his career. There are some decent options that you can go and get if you want to have them. It's not as dire as people want you to convince you. It's too rich. Gold is valuable because it's rare. QBs are not valuable in that regard because there are a lot of decent quarterbacks.
I think one of the best points you made is, I mean, you can have Josh Allen. You're not guaranteed anything. I mean, it probably gives you a better chance, but we witnessed how hard it is. All right, I wanted to get to the uniform conversation. Mm-hmm. I did not realize this would be harder than I thought it would be, in the sense that I thought, okay, who is the best or the worst alternate uniform? Well, it occurred to me, Shek, that there's color rush uniforms. Mm-hmm. Then there's teams have like an alternate uniform. And then there's a throwback uniform. Some of these include new helmets or different helmets. Some of them don't. So it really sort of muddies the water. What's new this year is you can wear a different helmet. So that opens up a lot of possibilities. So I'm a gentleman. I will grant you the floor to give me a alternate uniform that includes a second helmet. So it's got to have the second helmet that really you think is hot stuff.
You know, the one that is that they should have capitalized on, and time has already come and gone, so you can't go back, but they should still do it ASAP. The New England Patriots need to go back to Pat Patriot, period. The Flying Elvis, the Silver Hats are associated rightly and will be for all of time with Tom Brady and that window. I think prior to that, the white hat with the red jersey and the white pants, that's a sweet look, man. That's a dynamite look. It's a superior look. And you can kind of define the Brady years with that Flying Elvis uniform. So if you move, it basically arrives with Brady, and now put it out to pasture with him as well and return to that era. In a way, it kind of honors that era to leave those uniforms for the 20-year period of Brady as the Patriots hero and move on. And just aesthetically, I mean, that's the most important thing.
It's a great look aesthetically. It's interesting because I always looked at those uniforms as like the Bledsoe uniforms, like the Bledsoe helmet, because they went to it like in the mid-90s when Bledsoe was there for a while. So I kind of always associated the uniform. I know now everybody else does Brady, but that's interesting. You know, the one I thought about, and everybody brings up all the time, the Tampa Bay Bucks creamsicle, right?
Sure.
But here's what's so interesting about that, Chet. I don't remember people loving that uniform when they actually wore that uniform. People made fun of that uniform. And I think part of it is because they were terrible when they wore that uniform. I think it's hard to separate the unique color scheme from the terrible football team that can't win a game with Doug Williams and Steve Young and Vinny Testaverde and whoever. But I think it's ironic that like 20 some years later, maybe 30, I don't know. Now all of a sudden we all act like it's the greatest uniform ever when I don't remember anybody saying that in the 80s when I was a kid.
You are 100% right. I have talked about this dynamic that the same person who hated it. Now, I don't know how deep in the weeds you want to get on uniforms. You know, I can go to the highest levels of expert uniform analysis. The thing that plagued a lot of pro football uniforms is when the finish on the pants went satin. It went from flat to satin. The Buccaneers were a team that really suffered. They decided, let's take this uniform and double down on it and make the pants creamsicle. And they were shiny. And as a result, they looked ridiculous. They didn't look good, so you had to move on from the uniform. Same thing happened to the Miami Dolphins. Remember Ricky Williams and company? When they went with the turquoise pants, they also looked bad. Why? Because the shine is no good on them. But the Buccaneers, you're absolutely right. That I always talk. It really is like fashion in general, from what I can tell. People, like the arc is that people dressed like they did in the 70s, bell bottoms and gaudy colors and everything else. And then by like the end of the 80s, like people look back like that's so ridiculous. And then by the 90s, people started to ironically wear 70s. So let's have a 70s disco night. And then the irony goes away and people are like, I just think this plane looks good. And so it goes. And I guess that's true of football uniforms. The one thing we must avoid, though, is I think they overreached. I'm sure you remember it as a kid watching on TV. In 94, I don't remember what year of the NFL that was. What would that be? The 50th year or whatever? Well, it couldn't be that. Anyway, 75th year, maybe. They had all eras of uniforms, and some teams got the short end of the stick. The Bears, the Steelers, the really old teams wore their uniforms like some modified version of what they wore in 1938, and they were terrible. So we don't want to go that far back in the Wayback Machine. 70s, maybe 60s. And I would love, you mentioned Color Rush. What I'd love to see happen is Thursday night football, Monday night football, event programming kind of thing. Instead of having Color Rush uniforms, I wish they would do throwback uniforms against each other. Because here's the weird thing. When you put the 2021 Seattle Seahawks uniform on to play a throwback uniform, it don't look right to your eye. It's like, what the hell is going on the field? They have to be on par with each other. I would love, I saw you tweet this out, and one of your followers came back with, if the Broncos and Seahawks are playing each other, have them both wear their throwbacks. Have them wear their 1977 looks against each other. And to that, I say thumbs up. There's that. That's a great idea. Now, and imagine if every Thursday night football game you could look forward to seeing the Jim Zorn, Steve Largent era uniforms, and that would be high on my list too. This Seahawks thing about the dark helmet and everybody, their best uniforms were their first uniforms. The royal blue. I get that they were a little too similar to then some kids may not realize this. The Seahawks used to be in the AFC with the Raiders, and so there was a similarity there that was hard to work around. Now they're over in the NFC.
They weren't that similar.
Not that close.
That similar. I remember Bo Jackson running over the bars. We've all seen it.
Right.
You know, it's funny. One of the ones I like is the Atlanta Falcons Dirty Bird Black. But I know you like the 80s Gerald Riggs, right?
No, I don't like that. The Atlanta Falcons, Dion and Jerry Glanville, the all black, the Dirty Bird look was like, it was fine, except that the Houston Gamblers already claimed that look. And by the way, which was too close to the Raiders already, or the Steelers. But the one where it's at with the Atlanta Falcons is the Bartkowski era, the William Andrews era, the red hat, the red jersey, and the gray pants. And as I celebrate regional pride and all of that, and provincial pride, with Kenny Pickett staying in Pittsburgh, people in Georgia surely embraced the idea of like, hey, the Georgia Bulldogs and now the Atlanta Falcons dress basically the same. That's cool. I mean, people always point to, say like, I love in the year of the Lord 2022 that people still come up to me like, yeah, Shaq, you're from Pittsburgh. You ever notice that all the teams from there wear black and gold? Like, yeah, I've noticed that. Yeah, that has I did notice that one time. But yeah, like that's a cool thing. I love that.
That is actually an amazing thing because it just makes your wardrobe so much simpler. You can just wear a Steelers jersey to a Penguins game, to a Pirates game. So, look, I'll mention this. It's funny, too, because I am partial to the Eagles' Kelly Green because when I grew up, my guys were Reggie White, Randall Cunningham, and the helmet's actually a little different. Like, first of all, the helmet's a different color. It's Kelly Green.
Right.
I don't even know what they call this, midnight green maybe. But also, like, the Eagles' wing is a little bit different, too. And they were amazing. But here's my question. I often wondered, last question for you, Shaq, because I got to get a sponsor in and blah, blah, blah.
All right.
Are the Eagles' Kelly Green uniforms a lot better than what they're wearing now? Or is it just because that's when I was at my peak fandom in the late 80s, early 90s? I don't know the answer. I don't know if that's if that's real. Other people feel that way or just me because that's how I grew up.
Sort of true. I mean, I like when people think they have a gotcha on you, like, oh, you just like the uniforms when you were a kid. Like, yeah, no shit. Yeah, I mean, like, when I was 11 years old, of course, it was everything to me. These football heroes, of course, I like those uniforms, and it makes me nostalgic. Also, though, I have enough of an eye that my eye likes a certain look, and maybe it's owed to when I grew up. I don't like, the vertical stripe up the side of the jersey that you see sometimes on uniforms. People try to get modern with uniforms and then they're modern in that moment. And then they ironically become outdated quickly. Look at the Denver Broncos. They win Elway and Terrell Davis and so on win with that Navy uniform. And at the time you may not have loved it, but it was like, it felt very modern in the moment. Now you look at it, it's like, boy, that thing's straight out of 1994, ain't it? Like, it just doesn't, it's not that great. So that's
what is that great? You are. Check him out on social media.
You don't cut me off. You don't cut me off. I got 20 more minutes ready to go.
No, you were done. Dude, my show's only 30 minutes. And I got to get to a sponsor.
All right, you do you.
At Dameshek, -3 podcast, Extra Points podcast. He never asked me to come on. It's been years. I don't know what happened.
Like how you've been on my show. You've been on my show more recently. Well, now I've been on your show, so we'll make it right. Home and home. We'll do.
Thanks, dude.
Thank you, fella.
Thank you, Lumen Skin. You know why? Because I don't want my face to look terrible. I know I'm a dude. Guess what? I've been taking Lumen Skin, I don't know, probably a month now. My wife is 100% sure that my face looks better, which you can tell me on youtube.com/Ross Tucker NFL. Although we're doing this late afternoon, so there's like a different sunlight on me. But I'm telling you, I think some wrinkles went away. I think some sun damaged skin went away. Lumen is awesome. It's like a 2-minute quiz on their website. They'll tell you exactly which routine is best for you based on your skincare needs. They're all made with only natural ingredients. Charcoal powder. I use the charcoal stuff. Look, it shouldn't be hard. I know what some of you guys are thinking. Oh, Ross, I'm not putting face skin on. Do you brush your teeth when you go to bed? Do you floss? Do you maybe put a topical hair solution on maybe, like I do? Well, then level up your skincare game with Lumen Skin today. Takes 2 minutes after your wife shows you how to do it, in my case. Go to lumenskin.com/Ross to get your free trial of Lumen's products. That's LUMIN skin.com/Ross to get your free trial of Lumen's products. lumenskin.com/Ross.
Tuck's Takes.
Hey, Ross, let's start today with flex scheduling. Monday Night Football, weeks 14 through 18. They're going to start flexing that next season, 2023.
So that's good for television viewers. That's a good thing. Okay. I'm happy about that. That does make it a little bit difficult for season ticket holders who think they're having a Monday night game and then it gets switched to Sunday at 1. Or they think they're having a Sunday at 1 game, it gets switched to Monday night. That makes it maybe not even season ticket holders, maybe just people that want to go to one game. So just something to think about. Also, what about broadcasters that sometimes broadcast Monday night? Like me for Westwood One. A lot of times it's localized. So if it's in Baltimore or Philly, I'm there. What if it's there, but then, they switch it to LA? It just creates some issues, but ultimately it's the right thing to do.
Tuck's Takes.
Jack Crawford retires after 10 years in the NFL.
A lot of you don't know who Jack Crawford is. A lot of you don't care. Here's why we're bringing it up. He's from the UK. Came over to the United States when he was 16. I forget where he went to high school or how the story went down. Goes to Penn State, has a good college career, 10 years in the NFL. As a guy that was in the UK till he was 16. That's amazing. That's awesome. I know we have a lot of UK listeners and viewers, which is awesome. So I wanted to give him and them a shout out.
Tuck's Takes.
Drew Brees reportedly done at NBC after 1 year. And also some former Saints news. Sean Payton getting a studio gig at Fox.
So the thing about Brees is I thought he was fine. A lot of people did not think he did a great job, especially in that Bengals-Raiders playoff game. Here's the thing that needs to be noted. Fox reportedly just gave Brady $375 million for 10 years. What if they don't think he's very good? Obviously something happened there with Brees and NBC. I don't know what that is, but just something that jumped out to me that I thought was interesting. Here you got Brees, who I think NBC thought would take over for Collinsworth someday and be the next Sunday night guy, their Romo, so to speak, and it only lasted 1 year.
Tuck's Takes.
Jerry Jones says that the Cowboys, if he were to sell them, which he said he would never do that, though, could sell for over $10 billion.
That wouldn't surprise me. I don't know. I thought about it, but I'm not going to offer that for the Cowboys. I guess what I would say is, I've told the story on the show before. He definitely cares about EBITDA and profit margin. Only team I ever played for that they charged for lunch. I think it was like $150 a week. Only team I played for where they payroll deducted from my last paycheck after they cut me for my helmet, $300. And that's fine. I'm not complaining about it, but they're the only team out of 5 that did either one of those things, which I think is noteworthy. And probably why the Cowboys make so much money, because they're making sure they count every dollar.
So when Troy Aikman retired, do you think they charged him for his helmet?
That's a great point, Bri. There's no way they did. That's a great point. We need to get Jerry Jones on the show, or Stephen Jones, ask him that, or get Aikman on the show, or Emmitt Smith, ask him that, and then see if I can get my $300 back. It's a really good point, Bri.
Tuck's Takes.
All right, and finally, Ravens signed linebacker Vince, is it Beagle?
Yeah.
All right, Vince Beagle. While free agent running back Tariq Cohen appeared to have injured himself on Tuesday afternoon. Explain this one.
Tariq Cohen, I saw the video. We're recording this Tuesday afternoon. He was filming his workout on Instagram Live. Is that a thing that guys do? I don't know. I mean, I'm on Instagram. I like Instagram. I didn't know guys film their workouts on Instagram Live. But obviously that's awful for Tariq trying to get back in the NFL. Vince Beagle, I always thought was a solid player for the Dolphins. I think he ends up being a contributor for the Ravens. He feels like a Raven. Aggressive, good on special teams. And then also, Bri, saw the Colts sign Philip Lindsay, who's sort of a Tariq Cohen type of running back. I don't know what happened to Philip Lindsay. Maybe somebody can explain it to me. I always thought Philip Lindsay was really good. I'm not quite sure what happened there. Anyway, I am quite sure that whatever you got coming up, my wife and I have our anniversary coming up this weekend. Maybe it's a birthday. Father's Day will be here before you know it. MyFrontPageStory.com, by far, the best holiday gift I am aware of. Shout outs, Pizza Boy Brewing, Sporticulture, HumanHeadNYC.com, SteakhouseSports.com, Go-Bangles.com, Evergreen Economics. I will tell you this. My highest recommendation, listen to today's Even Money podcast. Warren Sharp talking about schedule and equities. It was phenomenal. Please listen. I think we're done here.
Thanks for listening to the Ross Tucker Football Podcast. Make sure to also subscribe to the Fantasy Feast, Even Money, Business of Sports, and College Draft. All available at Apple Podcasts, rosstucker.com, or wherever podcasts can be found.